Unit 4, Selecting a Problem for PBL. Lesson 3, Presenting a PBL Problem. What this lesson looks at. Firstly, we will give an overview of problem presentation. Then we will look at the 3 C's, content, context and connectedness. Look at the 3 R's, research, reasoning and reflecting. Overview. Once you've selected the problem, it's important that it is fully developed and presented. You can do this in the PBL group where the learners with the facilitator can fully develop the problem. The problem must be presented in a manner that makes it clear what the learner is to explore, identifies what context it is to be explored in, if any other efforts have been made to solve the problem, or its impact on other areas of the organisation. What's the goal state after the problem is solved? And it must be presented in a way that stimulates exploration and inquiry. The 3 C's. The 3 C's are concerned with the knowledge and content projected in the presentation of the problem and how to integrate it into the PBL process. The 3 C's are content. In Hong's model, the content component focuses on the ability of the process to cover the depth of content in a curriculum being taught. When designing the presentation of a problem, it's important to consider what is already known about the problem and what content can be given to the group to enable them to address this problem. It must be important that there is sufficient information to allow the learner to solve the problem and that there are enough facts known about the problem. This will depend on how clear or how much clarity there is in the problem. For example, if a problem is concerned with attracting new customers, what past approaches have they tried and what sectors do their main customers operate in? Context. If the problem is to be explored in a particular context, it's important to state so. Connectedness. Connectedness refers to integrating problems with each other. Perhaps you might increase the complexity of the problem as the learner progresses through different problems. You might overlap similar problems, or you might test ideas in different contexts. It is expected that each person in the PBL group will have a different hypothesis depending on the role, and they'll test these during self-study. In connectedness, it's important to refer to any problems that have been encountered or any other efforts at solving the problem that have been made. The 3 R's. The 3 R's are concerned with components which are presented in the problem required to ensure that the learner successfully engages in PBL. Research. This involves outlining to the group what's required from the PBL process. This is done by specifying the goals you expect them to attain throughout the process. In a study conducted by Patricino, it was found that students which received specific goals for the project illustrated a better understanding of the content, as well as the methodological approaches they used for research and data collection. By articulating the goals, it reduces the concerns students have with the ambiguity of problem-based learning. Within an organisational context, this might involve specifying in particular what you want the learners to examine, what you want to achieve for the organisation, and what you want the learners to achieve from a professional perspective at the end. We will look at an example of this in the next slide. Reasoning. This involves encouraging the learner to apply what they have learned from the research. In PBL, the learners are required to analyse information, generate and test hypotheses. The problem must be designed in a way that encourages the learner to apply reasoning techniques. For example, going back to the problem, how to export products to the Asian markets without a physical presence. You might expand the objectives to encourage reasoning and application. This will contain verbs such as explore, research, apply, analyse and adopt. For example, explore the customer behaviour in Asian markets and determine how it might impact on the product we offer. Research the excise and customs laws of receiving countries and what feasible measures we need to implement in our organisation to satisfy these requirements. Reflecting. We spoke previously about reflecting. This is a key part of PBL and an aspect which builds critical thinking. It allows the learners to understand solutions they might have missed or approaches that might have made the learning process more effective. Usually, PBL reflection is done under the guidance of a facilitator. However, it's important to build this into the problem design. Through building in reflection, it can allow the learner to articulate their mental models throughout the process, which we spoke about in becoming a PBL learner. In addition, it can help companies understand the decision-making process, which can be applied to similar problems. We will now look at the research aspect of the problem we spoke about earlier regarding the Asian markets. So for the problem, how do we export products to Asian markets without a physical presence? You might set objectives for the learners to examine the customer buying behaviour, excise and customs laws of the receiving countries, export and trading laws in the European Union, transportation mediums and distribution partners in those countries. You might have specific objectives to increase sales to Asian countries by 10% in the next year, attract 20 new Asian customers, and perhaps set up 2 distribution channels to these customers. So at least the learner knows what they have to attain by the end of the PBL process. In the next lesson, we're going to look at a sample PBL problem and how it's being presented.